I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide podcast, Raw and Unfiltered. And if you've been watching me thus far, hopefully you're totally entertained and engaged in the process by which we are making decisions about our own health. And one thing I like to share with everyone is that sometimes the content of this material might trigger you. And in fact, that's sort of the purpose too, because in this day and age, we're so afraid to be triggered because by getting us triggered, we actually get that opportunity to face ourselves in the mirror and then overcome what it is that we need to overcome. So getting out of that comfort zone, being uncomfortable, is exactly the process for growth. And so, while today may not be something that you might get triggered, but hopefully it's something that you will be able to relate to. And so how do we actually help you today? Because in today's world, as you navigate the internet, there's so much information. So what's believable? What's real? What can you rely on? And what's applicable to you? And that's the biggest problem these days, because, unless you're very educated in these areas, then you might be making the wrong decisions. And I don't count myself as being super educated, even though I'm a plastic and reconstructive surgeon. I've studied for years and years. Sometimes this information is so immense, it's really hard to figure some of these things out. But that is part of what my job is to create and guide, those out there who are seeking to improve their health, who are seeking to optimize their health. And so my job, again, is to educate you so that you can start making the right decisions for yourself. But ultimately, it is your responsibility. And that's the other part of the conversation that we need to have today, is first of all, curating, educating, and you being responsible to verify and trust, the information that you're getting. So how do we do this today? Well, we're going to role play. And I've got these amazing individuals on our show today, as I have every single time. And they're specifically selected. They're totally cool people. But the idea is to have them role play maybe a personal issue that they've had, or something that they've experienced, or someone else that has experienced that, so that you can relate to that process, to the pain, to the suffering, to the confusion, and then have the one person be guided and to come to some sort of resolution. So obviously, we're going to do this for about 6 minutes, but obviously we're not going to be able to fully resolve that, but it's to give you an idea as how to navigate this process. At the end of it, our hope is that you leave with at least an insight, a distinction, and a next action step. And obviously, if you want more information about this particular process of this particular role play today, I would invite you to reach out to both Gabriel and Daniel for more information as well. So I'd like to introduce, both Gabriel and Daniel. They will do their own introductions. We'll do the role play for about 6 minutes. Following that, we're going to unpack that. We're going to talk about it. And that's where those distinctions will come into play for you as well. So Gabriel, thank you so much. I've had some great times with you on the playa. And if anybody knows what the playa is, that's part of what Burning Man is. Really impressed by your depth and your wisdom, both in spirituality, but also in the human body, and how you are able to transform people's lives with amazing work that you do. So please introduce yourself, and then your guest Daniel will introduce himself, and then we'll get started.
Thank you, Bart. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And my name is Gabriel Shonerd. I've been a massage therapist for 15 years or so. And it's something that is sort of my avenue to work with all of the gifts that I've learned throughout life, to contact people and help them both with their bodies. And I view people through a very holistic lens. And so we often end up having lots of conversations on the table. And so we'll go more into that, but I'm very happy to be here, and I'll pass it over to Daniel.
Thank you. Daniel.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Daniel Martin, and I'm a cybersecurity technician turned epilepsy health coach. I, like Edward Snowden, another tech geek who also had epilepsy, was just focused on computers and not my health until I started having seizures again in my 20s, because I was diagnosed when I was 10 and put on medication. until I was forced to deal with it in those 20s. So living a normal, working a normal job, and then having what I have are full body grand mal seizures. So I'm unconscious on the floor, and I had to figure out how to reverse that naturally. So now I help other people do the same. I reached a point in my health where I've been seizure free, medication free almost 5 years. And I know that in almost any case, somebody can dramatically improve, if not 100% control, a neurological imbalance such as epilepsy. And that's why I specialize in it. And that's why I do it all day, every day.
That's truly amazing, Daniel, because one of my jams, if you will, is how do we get rid of all the drugs that we utilize? How do we avoid getting surgery? I mean, my vision of the future doctor is one that won't be prescribing drugs or performing surgeries, because we can harness the potential of the body to restore form and function. And that's exactly what both of you do. So I think that's exceptional, because so many people are just so lost with all these convulsions that they have, and losing that control and not wanting medication. So I'm excited to hear more about that towards the end of the show. So let's go ahead and do the role play. I think Daniel, you're going first as someone presenting with an issue, and then Gabriel will be the guide. We got 6 minutes.
All right.
Sounds good. I'll dive right into it. So Daniel, my name is Daniel, and I'm seeing Gabriel, and I've got this weird, mysterious pain. I've heard you know things like between the mind-body connection and things. I have this mystery problem. Anytime I stand up or bend over or go to sit down, there's this immense pain right in what feels like my right butt cheek, deep in the joint, and somewhere in there, it's kind of like this mysterious aching pain. And if I sit, in the perfect position and I don't move, for the most part, I'm fine. But all of a sudden I'm limping when I'm walking, I'm in my 20s and I can't really function. And somehow if it gets flared up, I don't know if it's what's causing it. It seems like a complete mystery. It's not an obvious exercise induced or workplace injury, but at its worst, it's a pain level 8 out of 10. I can't quite sleep at all through the night. I'm squirming constantly just to sort of ease the pain. I can't find any position, not upside down, not twisted on a couch, not, this or the other. Already seen a chiropractor or two to get a standard adjustment, and got sort of 2 different opinions what's going on. So it would be so invaluable to me if I had more insight on how do I figure this out? How do I ease the pain? I don't want to medicate myself to death, and I don't want to ignore the root cause. So that's what I'm struggling with.
Cool. Well, welcome to my office, Mr. Daniel. I can tell you, starting from a massage therapist lens, that what I do specifically is a very therapeutic approach to massage. It's different from a spa type treatment. I work in a chiropractic clinic, so I would work in conjunction typically with a chiropractor. The chiropractor would be adjusting your bones, and then I'd be working with your soft tissue to put your muscles in alignment to your correct spine and sacral alignments. I trust deeply in the body's ability to heal itself. So a lot of what I find myself doing is creating space and facilitating for the body to find its own center. And so an issue like this, I would go in and help to differentiate the muscles. It sounds likely there's a piriformis issue that's right deep in your butt, and it causes a lot of pain, and can cause sciatica, things shooting down your legs sometimes. And so I was trained in structural integration, and we focus very much on finding your center, your alignment with gravity. And so I'll check out your whole spine and how you're aligned, because every other part of the body affects every other part of the body. And so what kind of one of the main things that I find causes issues like this are being in one place for too long, perhaps sitting. So I wonder about your daily life, and sort of about the variety and the time frame. How often are you moving your body? What kind of work do you do?
Yeah, I do computer work. So at a computer from 9 to 5, basically. And sometimes it's not even good posture. Like if I'm on a laptop,
Right.
I know it's not ideal, but I'm doing that straight and I'm not taking any kind of big breaks or doing any physical work. It's 100% computers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, great. So that's on on a plainly physical level, where you're very much involved in what you're doing here, and then the body is sort of static and it is not getting as much attention, maybe not as much movement, and maybe there's a certain way that you're sitting that there's a pressure that's getting put somewhere. So, first suggestion would be bringing in regular movements. You can set a little alarm for every hour and a half or something, get up, take a little walk, move around a little bit. The more I study pain, the more I believe that it often has to do with how much we just move our bodies. And that's on the physical. Then I go deeper than the physical, which I personally believe that most of our pain is sourced from psychological, emotional, metaphysical type of place. And so I would go in and ask a little bit more about your foundation. Do you feel, and whether or not you're feeling connected? What is your connection to like feeling safe and on the ground, rooted? Let me rephrase. How do you what makes you feel or do you feel like stable in life? Do you feel a stability, and do you feel like you have a solid connection to the ground? And I'm having a hard time figuring out that question exactly.
No, I think it's a great question, actually. It's perfect.
Okay.
Daniel.
I do feel like a 50-50 blend. Like a lot of times I feel like I'm a real chill guy. I'm not hyper stressed or worried about things. But on the other hand, like I do feel this like tension of just being around other people, or, being judged by other people. What if my family or parents or peers, think I'm not successful because I'm not like farther ahead in life? And so I have a little bit of that like broad picture of like, I'll be safe when I have a certain level of money or marriage status or property status or whatever. So there's a little bit of that possibly, and a little bit of that, just being at work and being in front of other people, and you have to like smile and like put on a pleasant demeanor, and that just takes a lot from me.
But that's perfect right there. So I think what we'll do is we will feel that sense of check into that feeling while we're on the table. I'm going to manipulate your body. We'll create some flow in there, and also be connecting with that sense of like, okay, what is a deeper foundation for what's going on here?
Awesome. So let's wrap it up there. I think that's amazing. So I'd like to share a couple of things, first of all, for the listeners, and kind of put context to this, awesome, dialogue here. Because the truth is that conventional medicine really looks at the symptoms, looks at, let's say, the different, systems, the cardiovascular system, and, your GI and your brain and all that kind of stuff. When in reality, we can start looking at things differently. And one of the areas that we need to look at is our structure. And it's an area that most people actually completely ignore. And certainly when I was a medical student and also in residency, we never talked about the structural aspect. But the structural aspect, when you think about it, it's a complex and complicated network of communication. So like in any kind of city, there's all sorts of ways to communicate throughout the city. Well, our body is sort of like that. And when there's a roadblock somewhere, then the flow of communication stops. And that's what happens, when we have any structural issues, like you were explaining right there, your posture that's kind of static for hours and hours. And then, Gabriel's absolutely 100% right. I mean, what's actually happening in your head actually gets transferred to the entire structure of your body. And then it kind of sort of, and I'm simplifying this. So anybody out there, if you choose to to challenge, how I'm explaining things, I go for it. I'm simplifying it for most people so I can understand it too, by the way. But it's sort of like we capture this tension, these thoughts, in the particular areas of our body, and that becomes a problem. That becomes a locus of tension based on the thoughts that you're having, by the way, as well, whether it's tension, whether you're not good enough, whether there's scarcity, all that kind of thing. And so I think this kind of work, and I'm so glad I have you both here, because you're describing a problem that a lot of people show up with. And Gabriel, you're presenting a different approach. You're helping people then readjust and realign their body at the same time, giving that opportunity to mentally adjust as well. So I'm going to give the floor to both you guys, but I'll start off with Gabriel. What was that for you? This experience, as you relate to your own experiences with your clients in your own business.
Wait, so rephrase the question. What was what for me?
So what was that experience just now for you? I mean,
just this?
Yeah, I mean, what comes to mind that you want the listener to know about your work?
About my work personally. Well, about my work, I feel like I've found something that is an expression, is a deep expression of who I am. And it feels like something, a way that I can be of service to the world, and that I can also be supported by it. And that is, I'm embodying something that feels like health to me. So as we go through and as we talk about this issue, I'm often always reflecting on my own life, my own experience. And so when I hear about Daniel's problem, I'm always resourcing what's going on inside of my own body, what have I experienced, and what makes me feel good. And one of those things is variety. I'm a musician. I sell produce during the summertime. I install Christmas lights during the wintertime. I teach. A woodworker. So I've found that I need a certain level of variety. And so yeah, whenever I'm approaching somebody like Daniel and this issue, I'm going to come in and say, okay, let's work this body, because wow, when the body is out of whack, something's going on. It's the body saying something. It's saying, hey, I need some attention. And usually, I think oftentimes we are the ones that have given attention elsewhere, and then our body suffers because of that. And oftentimes when we give attention elsewhere, it's because we feel maybe a little bit out of alignment with ourselves, maybe a little bit of lack or a fear, something going on. And that's where these deeper questions come in around how do we become in alignment with our own being, our own core, our spirit, if you will, and how I find that when we do that, our body responds.
Awesome. Daniel, what was this experience for you, and respond to anything that either Gabriel or I share?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was very intrigued by the deeper knowledge of not only do the bones need adjustment, but also like the muscles and the piriformis or the other things in the leg. Like a little muscle can cause a lot of pain. What? So it's interesting to hear that perspective. And I think it's powerful to have a complementary thing. Hey, here's something that's not going to hurt you. Here's something that it could be your missing piece, and working everything together, because these mystery things are difficult sometimes. And sometimes you have to look outside the box. So I like how much outside the box you are. I know you're not going to just say, look at your manual and say, step 1 is do this, step 2, step 3. So I got a lot out of that kind of open-mindedness and different approach to the problem.
Yeah, I like the fact that you use the word mystery. And so part of the process here is to demystify, right? What's really going on, because, when you find people like Gabriel and yourself, for what you do, I mean, you've basically demystified it for us, because, the truth is that just a straightforward massage, although it might feel really good, it ultimately doesn't really resolve, the critical issues that are going on. And I think both of you illustrated really well that, what's also going on in our head is going to affect everything else. And so, but you mentioned a really important aspect, Gabriel, and I appreciate you saying that. And we now have what's called the sitting disease, and the focus on the sitting disease has been a cardiovascular problem, because what happens, I'm not going to go into depth in it, but it's worse than smoking a pack a day. But you're saying something even more fundamental, is that by not moving around, it affects your whole structure in a very negative way. And then attach all the reasons why we're not moving around, because we're stressed. And so we get even more stress because we're not moving around. And I know that very well myself, full transparency. I get really excited about all the stuff that I get to do. I'm in my creative head all the time. And guess what? Sometimes I'm sitting in the same chair for about 16 hours, which is not a good thing. And so I'm actually changing that. And two things that I do is I have this treadmill right here. It's a small one, so I get on there as often as I can. My son has beaten me on that. He does 10 miles a day on that darn thing. And then but the other thing that I think was really helpful, and I want to hear Gabriel's thought on this one, for me, setting the alarm doesn't work. I mean, alarm, just I ignore it, turn it off. It's annoying, right? But what I now try to do as much as I can is every moment that I think about it, I'll just do 10 jumping jacks, or I'll do 10 pull-ups or 10 push-ups. And that in of itself, I think, activates the body, but also activates the endorphins. I mean, what do you think about that, Gabriel?
Well, that's the thing. Everybody's different. There's not going to be one way that works for everybody. So, if you're the type of person where the alarm doesn't work, some people that may, but if it's not you, you just got to find the way that works for you. And, when it comes down to it, your body speaks. It's telling you what you need to do. And it's going to speak louder and louder until you do it. And for somebody like you, who is really inspired and fulfilling your aliveness through your work, that is often sitting, you are getting that completely fulfilled. So you are in alignment with your goal, with your spirit and everything. And yet here we are in these physical bodies that without them, we're not going to be able to fulfill that mission. So it is sort of the work. It's a discipline. It's a daily practice. It's just doing it when you think of it. That works too.
Yeah. Well, you saw me at the playa, right? How I was limping. I mean, that was crazy. And then it got all wet there, and that was even worse. So what are your thoughts, Daniel? Anything else you want to add to this?
Not too much. There is so much value in doing what you're actually going to do. So if you can find something that's enjoyable, then you're going to stick to it. So if you hate going to a crowded gym, then recognize that, be aware of that. You can find a way to start enjoying it, or you can do something completely different. You can play golf, you can play disc golf, you can play racquetball, you can play with kids, you can garden, you can do lots of things. So there's always something that's either enjoyable or at least a lot less sucky than the thing that you're terrified to do or hate doing, high intensity cardio, for example. So there's so many options. There's something for everybody. You may not have discovered it yet.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point, because we all have a choice. And if you're getting sick, that's pretty much your choice. I mean, I make a statement that will trigger a lot of people, and that is, we no longer have an excuse to be sick anymore, because we've got all the tools, we've got all the resources, we've got all the genius people like yourselves that are sharing with us, what it is that we need to do. And it's our choice whether we do them or not. I mean, case in point, Gabriel says, well, try something else, right? And both of you guys said that. And I think that's, one distinction that I want to give to people is that, it's entirely up to you. It's your responsibility. It's how I started the show as well, what you choose to do. But the most important part of your responsibility is find people, like Gabriel and Daniel, that can guide you and teach you, as to what it is that you can do differently, because you deserve that. I mean, we all deserve that. So as we wrap it up, start off with Gabriel, because I know Gabriel. Just share a little bit more about your magics that you want people to know about you, and how do people reach you. And then we'll go to Daniel. And then I know that we will have a follow-up show for any of those out there who are wanting to learn more from both Gabriel and Daniel. Just tune in. But Gabriel, more about you just now, and one final comment.
Okay. So yeah, I work at the Cafe of Life Chiropractic. It is a chiropractic office with Dr. Dave. I've been with him for 15 years, and part of what you get when you come in there is excellent body work and chiropractic work. But you also get some excellent vibes. We have a really positive space, and we treat people like humans instead of a number. And I would definitely recommend coming in to see us, or somebody else. If you're not in my area, I find that massage and chiropractic and body work in general is a very, very valuable and important thing, especially in this day and age when we don't have as much physical contact anymore. And this is, I was watching a really quick story. I was in Africa recently watching the monkeys, and they are constantly grooming each other, constantly touching. And so often I find that when I put my hands on somebody, they go, oh. And I believe that we are touch deficient, and there is a lot of healing simply in coming in and receiving some touch. Come and get groomed, come and get loved, and give to your body in that way with me or somebody else. Cafe of Life Chiropractic is where I work in Bend, Oregon. And you can just look us up online, and we would be happy to see you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for that share, Gabriel. And, I wish we had a lot more time, because a lot I can share with you guys, but I wanted to give Gabriel the last word. Daniel, where do people find you? And any last amazing words from you?
Absolutely. People can find me at naturalseizurecontrol.com. And if there's one magic nugget that I would take away for anyone, is it doesn't matter what challenge or condition or brain imbalance somebody's dealing with. If you start bringing your awareness of like openness and seeing examples of people that have reversed things, it seems like a miracle on the outside. It seems like you wouldn't be able to do the same. It seems like 20 different doctors told you there's no hope for you. But because I've been through this process myself, where I felt absolutely incapable, I have a defective brain, I have defective genetics, but after going through and learning a lot of these diet and lifestyle changes that weren't even recommended to me, I had to like find them on my own. And to see this complete change in my life, my focus, my drive, my energy, my memory, everything functioning better, my life experience being better. And now I know as a personal fact that exists. And I know as a personal fact that so many other people have done the same thing. They just might not be talking on a podcast like this. They might not be getting the word out there. They're just happily living their lives. So the magic nugget is just, no matter what somebody's believing, going through, there is, if not 100%, reversal, at least like 50, 90%. And that's radically going to change somebody's life.
No, spot on. It's what I say. It's also the reason for this podcast series as well, is to give people the opportunity to discover new ways to optimize their health, and not have to do all the hard work, because for most people that hard work is just, it's seemingly impossible. And then the challenge that you have, what do you believe? And again, that's my job, to curate, educate, and guide those out there. And so I invite all the listeners to reach out to Gabriel and Daniel, with whatever questions that you have. Their information will be below. And tune in for the next podcast with them, and any of the other ones, that you will get some enlightening insights and action steps that you can take for yourself. And one last thing, I do believe that we need our body adjusted every single week, whether it's through massage, whether it's through chiropractic, or any of those other body workers, because your structure will determine how all your cells effectively communicate with each other. And that makes all the difference in our health. Gabriel and Daniel, thank you so much. And I am Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide podcast, Raw and Unfiltered, and we will be back.